Today we are going to be talking about the differences in girls' and boys' brains. Yes, it really is true. They are a bit different. So mostly we're going to be talking about boys and ways that we can help boys, but in doing so we'll talk about a little bit about the differences with girls. MRIs and things like that, we've actually been able to get a much greater understanding of brains and brain development. So one of the first things we know is that when babies are in the womb and for their first 6 weeks of being a fetus, that their brains develop similarly or the same. So it's not until 6 weeks, when a fetus is 6 weeks old, that the boy's brain is flooded with testosterone. That's the actual differentiation in the brain. So that's what happens. So for girls, they actually, hormones play a big part in the brain and the differences in the brain. So girls actually have a much higher level of oxytocin, and that helps them to develop more bonds and friendships with other people. That is something that they can do a lot easier than most boys can. So let's just stop again there for a minute and talk about boys versus girls. As we know, they are huge generalizations, and there's definitely a huge spectrum of levels. So we've got boys who are really full on and rough and tumble and never sit still, and down to the quieter boys, and the same with girls. They range from quiet and placid up to what we would have called in the past a tomboy. So just remember that there are definite ranges in where we're sitting, and your child might not particularly fit into these categories, but it's just some things that may help you. Okay, so girls, their fine muscles develop quicker, which means they're the ones that usually do a bit more drawing earlier on. They can sit down and do things for longer periods of time. Their attention span's a bit longer. And also their speech develops a little bit longer too, a little bit quicker. So there's some of the differences with our girls. So boys, well, we know that, as I said before, their brain is flooded with testosterone, and that actually is something that makes the boys a lot more active. They like to fidget. They can sometimes be a little bit even aggressive with that testosterone. So that's sort of where those behaviours come from. And then they have a much lower level of serotonin, and that is their self-control. So we know that when boys are feeling vulnerable, it's often anger is their go-to emotion. So that's something that we can work on with them to help them develop their skills and their ability to express their emotions in a more positive manner. So that's something we can do. They have shorter attention span, and as the girls develop their their fine motor or small muscles quicker, boys definitely have a quicker rate of development of their gross motor skills. So that's why they're up and running and jumping and kicking a ball and doing all of those things a lot quicker usually than girls do. They also speak louder, and that is something I'm not really sure why, but they do. And they also function better in a brighter light. So whereas girls, you know, it might more of a dimmer, calming light might be something that they enjoy. Usually a brighter light is something that boys find we can use to help them control some of their emotions. So that's something to keep in mind. What else? The boys are more likely to ignore voices, even their parents. So not necessarily on purpose, but they actually take in 70% less information than what girls do. And that is largely because we give them too much information. So when you're speaking to boys, it's much better to give them short, sharp tasks to do, or speak to them in short, sharp sentences, and they will definitely respond much better to that. Boys actually do have a 10% larger brain, and that is probably due to the fact that men are usually a bit larger than females. So that's in an adult. What can we do to support boys and their learning and development? So as I said before, use less words. Less words are better. If you can keep it down to 3 words at a time, that's fantastic. And definitely use more non-verbal things. So instead of using words, you might like to point, give them the thumbs up or a high five, and boys will definitely respond to that better than girls do. So use lots of cues that are not necessarily words to help them understand what you're actually saying. That also works, the cues, when you actually want them to just tone down a little bit, instead of just asking them to be quiet or even getting more and more frustrated and yelling. It's actually it will work best if you make eye contact with them and just do the sh sound with your finger, and it will usually work a lot better than the words alone. Okay, so give that one a go. So we need to remember that girls and boys, despite these differences, are both capable of anything, and we need to respect them for who they are and find a way to help each of them learn in their own way. And as we know, children are all individuals, and they will all have things that work well for them and not so well for them. So as parents, it's our job to find those things for our children. So really get to know them, know that the things that they love, the things that work and the things that don't, and don't be afraid to change it up and try different things, because sometimes something will work for a few days and you'll think, yes, got it, and then a week later it won't be working. So do change things around. If things, as the children learn and develop, things will change, but you know, go back to something that didn't work before or try something new. Give it a go, okay? And please remember just to be respectful. It's okay to make fun of yourself, and boys really respond to humour, and making fun of yourself or pretending that you're hurt or something like that can be quite hysterical to boys, toilet jokes, things like that. But don't do things that will make them feel vulnerable or upset or embarrass them, because that really affects your relationship with them. So please, it's okay to make fun of yourself, but don't make fun of them in front of others especially. That's really important. Okay. Also, with that, back to the respect, saying to a boy or a girl or anybody, suck it up, or you'll be fine, don't worry, don't act like a girl, that really isn't showing them any respect, and it's certainly not showing them that their emotions are valued. So please be really mindful of that, and be really careful with your words, because words really do have an impact on children, on anybody. Okay, so we need to help children to self-regulate, and to do that, that's, you know, to find ways to calm themselves down. So it might be, again, just trying different things, getting them to listen to their body and work out, you know, if their heart's racing or if they're feeling really tired, and what kind of things can change that. Yeah, so there's a really good analogy about a car. It's going just right, going too slow, or going too fast. And sometimes that analogy really works with our boys, and we can help them to get themselves just right and not too fast or too slow. Boys will listen more when they're moving. So if you're trying to have a conversation with a boy and he's fidgeting and rocking on the chair and swinging backwards and forwards, that's great. That's really good, because it does mean that they are taking more in while they're fidgeting. It actually releases chemicals in the brain that actually helps them to listen better when they're moving. So anytime you want to have a good conversation with a boy, take him outside, go for a walk, cook together in the kitchen, shoot some hoops, do something. Don't sit there and just listen. And don't sit there and just talk, because actually moving will create a much better environment. And when you're listening to a boy, don't talk. Keep your mouth shut, nod, show that you're listening, but just let them speak, and please don't interrupt them. Okay, so as I said before, find something they love, because when any of us love something, we are quite passionate about it, and that will help us do things, all sorts of things, if there's something there that we really enjoy. That's probably about it. I've tried to cover a lot today in a short amount of time. If you've got any comments or questions, please put them below, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. And if you've found any value in this, please like and share it out, and I hope someone else will get some value too.